Bonsoir tout le monde. Good afternoon, everybody. Non, pas c'est Cynthia Lenné. My name is Cynthia Lenné. It's a pleasure to have you guys today. C'est un plaisir pour nous capable bien ensemble avec nous aujourd'hui. Nous dire merci avec tout le monde qui est toujours branché. Koze sur Otis. Koze sur Otis, c'est une émission que nous faisons chaque jeudi pour parler de Otis ensemble avec la communauté haïtienne. Et jeudi, c'est un très grand plaisir pour nous capable pile sujet que nous allons faire débat ensemble avec eux. Mais avant que nous commencions, nous voulons saluer tout le monde et tout le monde qui a supporté nous. Nous voulons gros coup de main ensemble avec eux parce que sans eux même, nous ne pouvons pas continuer à faire émission ça, spécialement parents yo, qui relèvent nous, parents yo, qui chercher ressources yo, qui chercher mettre main ensemble avec nous pour nous capable aider pour capable faire route que yo commencé. Et nous dit merci ensemble avec spécialement Floody Foundation qui sponsorisé et pour nous capable faire émission ça et aussi nous gagnons tout l'autre supporter aussi pas pas prendre pile temps pour me citer non yo but nous peut-être connaître ça même devait faire une annonce qui vraiment quick, right? I just want to make a quick announcement, and today we have the 25th celebration of the Floody Foundation where we're going to have a great concert. Okay, so we're waiting for everybody tonight to be at the Fenway Park. Okay, so we know a lot of our family is going to be there. Pile la famille nous yo appela assoya dans parc là dans Fenway pour capable célébrer 25e anniversaire Floody Foundation. Floody Foundation nous geta connaît que l'aider nous dans tout sens. On comprend ça là en pile et support que nous joignent c'est deux même que nous joignons as far as like GPS en plus par relais petit moun yo c'est foundation ça qui buy tout accès ensemble avec ça yo. So en pile famille qui était signé pour être capable là et nous disons merci et nous appelons pour capable prendre petit temps ça pour être capable d'enjoy nous. Nous aussi gain family picnic que nous pas gain dimanche ça. So son façon que nous regrouper toute famille ensemble pour nous capable d'enjoy ensemble avec ti moun yo. En pile dans nous même nous t'ai vraiment peur à cause de ça qui a passé ensemble avec ti moun qui Otis yo et nous t'ai fait célébration ça nous gain famille somalienne yo, nous gain famille haïtienne yo cap là dimanche, OK, dimanche 27 là, vini et vinn boire kobo, be avec petit tout et puis nous pas manger ensemble, nous pas have fun. A lot of fun's going to be going on. So please, you know, I'm going to put the flyer in the chat. Make sure ou capable aller cliquer et puis faire nous connaître qu'on a vini pour capable make sure que tout bagay en ordre pour même. So m'pa prendre temps j'aime dire nous bah je fais émission ça pour moi j'ai la belle Evelyn que nous saluer, Evelyn de Autism 509 qui toujours a participé ensemble avec nous. Evelyn, c'est toujours un plaisir et nous remercions parce que chaque jeudi no matter what ou toujours là ensemble avec nous pour nous capable faire émission ça et nous dit bonsoir Evelyn.
Bonsoir Cynthia, bonsoir tout le monde, encore un plaisir jeudi pour nous rencontrer avant pour nous faire petit chita parler. Pour nous pour communauté la communauté et chaque jour chaque jeudi moi-même apprendre nos bagages de monde cap interact ou même qui chita cap tande partager parce que j'aime dire leur ou une communauté qui éduquée ou plus réceptif pour faire acceptation avec inclusion. Encore son plaisir avec nous aujourd'hui.
Oui, merci Evelyn. Et nous parlons Fabienne, pas inquiétez-nous. Fabienne là en esprit, les supposés avec nous très bientôt et nous connaît que c'est nous trois toujours là combattre ensemble avec émission pour nous capable continuer porter information. Mais je dis nous te voulons et faire bail un petit genre différemment. Nous tendons pile ensemble avec Evelyn des fois faut des invités. Je dis nous avons un invité spécial et nous dit que pas inquiétez-nous si c'est en anglais que lié parce que moi ma Evelyn nous geta mettre tête ensemble pour l'autre semaine nous boire toute bagaille et puis tout n'a bon petit anglais en qui ça on te dit Evelyn
nous allons parler English, créole anglais parce que nous avons invité avec nous qui parlent anglais seulement. Donc parents ou même pas vinn dire qu'on pas parler anglais parce que le poil là banque ou pas dit nous vinn avant pour régler faire l'argent. Donc on comprend nous parler. Donc nous a toujours facilité ou nous là n'a toujours gain créole là. Donc aujourd'hui nous allons faire émission en English.
Evelyn, madame là, parle ensemble là, on connaît tout qu'on a dialysé, pour y a mon jeune là qui se fait un chèque ben moi là, il est sûr qu'elle peut chèque là, ben moi et belle bagaille que lié là petit tout qui a fait des choses crazy pour nous. So nous pas pour pile temps, nous voulons, you know, we want to come and introduce to you guys. We have Diana Santiago. Diana Santiago, she's a senior attorney for MAC. I'm sorry, MAC. MAC is Mass Advocate for Children. And this organization is such a great organization, and we want everybody to know about them. Why do we want them to know about you guys? It's because the work you guys do with the students, with the families, with the parents, and the communities, right? You work with them at a policy level to making sure there's all the barriers are being removed for the families. So we are glad because we know you work with a lot of our immigrants families. You fight for their rights, Diana. It's such a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me here. It is such an honor to be with you, Cynthia and Eveline. And yes, as Cynthia said, I work for Mass Advocates for Children. I'm an education attorney. I'm also the parent of a child with a disability. So I've had experience navigating the special education process. And at MAC, I lead a project called Forward, or is it Avante?
Avance, that's right.
Advancing the education rights of immigrant and multilingual students. And again, I'm so grateful to be here today to talk to you about education rights, basic rights in education. And also thank you for accommodating me with your Kringlish.
Thank you, Diana, for joining us. One more voice to join ours for and in our community. We need that. I always said, Cynthia and I, we can speak, but the more people who join us, our voices would go further and they would hear us. And thank you for joining us. And thank you also for the work that you are doing. We need that. Parents, Diana Santiango, lycée avocat dans zafè éducation spéciale. Lycée parent tout qui gon ti moun qui a besoin spécial. Diana là pour l'expliquer nous droit nous. Tant qu'on nous dit, c'est pas devoir seulement ou gain droit. Ou gain droit tomber pas d'accord avec système l'école là. Yo di on bagay la pour pas d'accord ou gen droit ou gen moun là militant qui pour accompagner ou qui dit qui droit ou gen. Donc Diana là pour partager expérience à ba nous quelques petits conseils sous droit nous gagner en tant que parents.
Thank you. So as Cynthia said, something that I will say several times to remind everyone, and it's also in the tagline here, is the phone number to the free helpline that we have at MAC. And we do education advocacy only. That's our expertise. So any barrier to accessing an education, that's something that we can help with. We can provide them information, we can provide referrals, and in some cases we can provide direct advocacy support. So it might be related to special education, student discipline, school enrollment issues. If there are any barriers, you're having trouble enrolling your child in school, maybe because you don't have the updated vaccine records, or there's an issue with the proof of residency. We're seeing a lot of that. We always do at the beginning of the school year. Transportation. These are all issues that can get in the way of a child's learning. And if I didn't mention it, most of the callers to our helpline, although not all of them, are parents of children with disabilities who have autism or other disabilities and are advocating in the special education process to make sure that their children get what they need so that they can learn in school.
Diana dit, thank you Diana. Diana dit parents, spécialement nous connaît que nous avons un paquet migrants. Nous avons un paquet moun, l'autre jour comme appelé, par exemple, New York, il y a 100 000 migrants. Et nous connaissons un paquet haïtien tout partout. Et nous toujours, c'est pas ça seulement, mais nous toujours dit, 3 states qui ont population haïtienne qui est plus importante, qui Massachusetts, qui Florida, qui New York. Et nous connaissons que l'un saut Haïti ou bien l'autre côté, nous venons ici, système pour inscrire ti moun dans l'école là pas correct. Et nous connaissons spécialement en Haïti, ti moun nan fin passe étape, li prend tout vaccin, nous pas kon côté nous voyer carnet vaccination jeté, et c'est un document qui est très important leur venir ici pour by l'école là. Diana ka aide nous là ça. Pour votre adresse, ou te gen doit venir comme migrant, moun qui te voye chercher là, et puis ou pour qu'on c'est loyer pour une semaine, faut une adresse sûre, faut une preuve adresse sur tout ça en Mac avec numéro de téléphone en bas, y a qu'à aider nous marcher avec nous encore et Diana avec association là, y a kembe mais nous marcher avec nous dans le système là pour faciliter nous tout ça.
Diana, I just want to ask you a question. I know Evelyn is going to take care of the Creole part, but I just want to make sure other people that are listening, as far as like Mac, we want to remind them Mac is in Massachusetts. So yes. I don't want you to get calls from everywhere.
I hope
you gladly to help them, you know what I mean? Because you're going to direct them to the right situation, but we want to make sure that people know that. And as well, when it comes to the helpline, that the helpline is not only in English, okay? So papa c'est comme si les nous relais, oh m'pa kon parle anglais, comment m'bala gon anglais aller, just making sure that they know it is also in different languages. In Spanish, that they can leave a voicemail. That you guys have people that are available to speak the language with them, so you can connect with them.
I want to also add, if you are a migrant, you living in New York or you living in Florida ou in Pennsylvania, right? So son migrant ou attendez Diana jodi, lui même c'est pour Boston, Massachusetts. Mais ou son on parent, on migrant qui besoin bagay ça au Pennsylvania, New York ou Florida. Ou ka ou gon point de repère qui Autism 509, n'a guido vers advocate parce qu'on gen doit gon question. Diana ka répondre mais c'est New York ou vivre ou bien c'est Connecticut ou vivre. Retrouvez nous dans Autism 509 ap guider vers advocate qui fait même travail Diana fait dans Massachusetts qui ou Boston ou Florida ou Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it is. And I do. Yes, we are a Massachusetts based organization and serve primarily residents of Massachusetts. Education is a civil right. However, in the United States, in the entire United States. So we do in Massachusetts have some laws that are slightly different than in other states, but in the entire country, no matter what state you live in, education is a civil right, which means that your child has access to a public education, regardless of where they were born, their immigration status, regardless of the language they speak, their first language, and even if they have a disability, that schools anywhere in the United States are required to make accommodations so that children who, can learn in school and have access to an education. And that's in Massachusetts and, anywhere in the country. So we do sometimes get calls from parents from outside of Massachusetts, and what we do on our helpline is usually I'll Google the legal services or the education advocacy in their state, at least as a start, so that they can connect with an organization that is similar, hopefully, to Mass Advocates for Children in their state, and they can get the support that they need so their child can learn.
That's right. That's amazing. One thing that we are noticing is, I know you and we had this conversation, whereas we have a lot of, folks from our own country, Haiti, coming here in Massachusetts. And then one thing I know we talk about, they are taking care of their housing, they're taking care of all these different things. And we have not seen a lot of needs as far as like the push for education, wanting to learn more how this education system work here. And then one thing that we want to make sure that they are aware of the laws that they know, because we know our folks, they don't really like to push for certain things because they're like, I have a language barrier. They're not gonna be able to listen to me. They're intimidated. And then, I just want you to talk a little bit about that before we get deep into a lot of great things that I know you're gonna talk. But a lot of these folks, we wanna have that in their mindset to making sure. So samedi di Diana très vite, nous avons pile mon qui sorti Haïti qui vient ici et une bagay dans l'éducation nous ouais que yon ti jan négligé yo plus à chercher caille à chercher comment pour survivre mais nous pas dans pile de partie éducation nous connaît en pile là d'ailleurs intimidé avec langage là parce que penser on pas parler anglais on pas supposer qu'on ait accès à droit ou bien moun yo capable faire ça parce que c'est professeur que yo ou bien l'école là et les mêmes qui correct mais nous voulons moun yo connaît pour yo capable sur qui droit yo dans l'éducation parce que spécialement moun qui get si moun besoin spécial gon Jean toujours dit là Yveline faut bataille et pour bataille faut qu'on Jean loi a fonctionner et moi t'ai a parlé ensemble avec Diana me dit li nécessaire pour commencer mettre ça dans tête moun yo oui nous connaît faut chercher cale vrai oui nous connaît faut chercher côté pour joindre manger ou bien pour joindre corps pour capable continuer vie hein, mais en même temps tout faut connaître de éducation.
Yeah, so we are hearing a lot and from our community partners, from people like you, Cynthia, the Black Autism Coalition, and of course in the news about newly arrived immigrant and migrant families, and struggles to obtain permanent housing, and even temporary housing in some cases. And I'm a parent. I know, housing comes first. Is having a place to live, having some a place to sleep, food for your child to eat, medical care if your child needs medical care. Those are the priority needs here. And so education sometimes it's helpful to kind of have all of those things in place to really be able to advocate and pursue for appropriate education services. For students with disabilities in particular, I would say that education serves, an even more important purpose than for all children. And, and I value education for all children, of course, but we know that the stability and the routine, and kind of knowing what to expect in a day is so important for our children with disabilities in particular. And just having that structure can make all of the difference. And so when things are less stable because their family you haven't accessed permanent housing yet. There's still transitions. There's a lot of uncertainty. In particular for children with disabilities, we have seen that, school can really serve an important purpose, of course, to learn, to develop new skills, and also to be a place where we hope, it provides stability and structure that can be a huge comfort to children, especially during uncertain times.
Let me add, thank you, Diana. Let me add for the parents, try to explain them. Nous connaissons qu'en Haïti, même si loi ou la règle ou la écrit, mais le plus souvent, il n'est pas appliqué. Donc, nous venons prendre tant coup de monde qui pas de structure. Quel que soit bagage qui pas de structure, nous, Diana, répété mot ça en plusieurs fois, ici, nous, structure. Quel que soit ça pas de structure, on n'a pas de structure, pas de fondation, il n'est pas prêté. Donc, qui s'est passé ici, l'on vient petit monde, on doit venir ici. Première priorité, c'est chercher caille, chercher manger, chercher travail, mais on petit monde dans caille là. Ici, tu contrôler ça. On va le saisir que ou pas capable décider on beaucoup envoyer petit monde dans l'école parce que besoin toute information sociale, sécurité tout, yo connaît gon petit monde qui l'entre l'adresse, yo va le voir demander comment petit monde ça fait pas de l'école. Donc, c'est ça les structures qu'on est. Et nous Diana dit tout l'école d'une part leur sorti dans soye ou vinn kounya pour apprendre jour adapté au pays où y est c'est pas quitter culture adapté ou apérien parce que selon l'autre façon yo vivre, yo gen structure, yo gen règle, yo gen loi. L'école là tout c'est comme si son havre de paix pour ti moun nan. C'est là tout mal tête ça ou vin non pays étranger ou pas parler langue là, travail, c'est là qui on sort on havre de paix pour ti moun nan côté le ka non stress, instabilité pour même qui fait choix quitter pays ou non pour plus ou moins ouais qui koto pral qui koto pral la petite.
Thank you. And really, I mean, just something else that's really important as kind of a fundamental issue in terms of students being able to access an education that meets their needs. Schools in the United States are required to provide interpretation and translation services to communicate with families when the school requires that, to be able to communicate with families who prefer a language besides English. And so the school, this is so crucially important because especially for our children with disabilities and our children who have experienced really, difficult situations, either before their arrival to the United States or during their arrival to the United States, or just in general, that communication from the parent to the school about what is going to be helpful to that child, what is going to be calming, what do they need so that they can be in a state so that they can be learning in school. That's information that only the parents are going to have that information. And so it's so important that they're able to communicate that to their child's teachers at school. Also, things that are going to upset their children, things that the school should avoid doing. We've had parents who have contacted our helpline who have children who are new arrivals to the United States. And every migrant journey is so different, depending on so many different factors, the country that the child is coming from, the circumstances, under which they're leaving that country. But we have had situations where there has been immigration trauma because of that journey has been a traumatic journey. And the school district hasn't been aware of that because they haven't looked for that information. They haven't known really to look for it, even though they absolutely should always have that in their mind, that every child has a story and their experiences that they bring to school with them. And so we've had one call in particular where the school wasn't aware that child had been in an immigration detention center before they enrolled in that school district. And there were certain things that were triggering for that child in school that were making that child really upset. And the child was showing their extreme emotions, their big feelings by acting out, by not sitting in their chair, by leaving the room, when doing things that the school was seeing them as misbehaving, when really they were acting because there was what they call like a school resource officer or a police officer who was there in the school setting. And that student was being traumatized because he had seen that at the immigration detention center where there wasn't enough food, where he couldn't always be with his mother, and all of these issues. And so it's so important that parents don't need to tell the school everything, that's happened in the past with their child, but even that information in their language, what to avoid, what is upsetting, to my child in school, and how you can create an environment where they feel welcome and comfortable and calm so that they can learn in school. And you as parents have that information to share with the school.
Let me I'm not translate word for words what Diana said, but let me just make a resume of what Diana said. Parent, ta koum toujou di nou, pa gen moun ki kon pitit nou an pase nou. Donc, ta kou Diana di, l'école yo kouni a cause de migrants, tout moun yo ouvert que yo parle créole pour connexion qu'a fait. Parce que c'est où, ta kou Diana di, gen ti moun, chaque moun subit une sorte de trauma ou bien une sorte de changement, ça dépend de notre pays sorti. Nous connaissons des migrants qui sont au Brésil, Chili ou bien Haïti, l'autre côté. Et on dit que les gens qui traversent les frontières, yo kembe yo lan camp immigration pendant combien de temps? Nous te wè de images, si moun nan yo fait maintenant cage, ni wè officier immigration et tout ça. Donc, si moun qui gen besoin spécial là, gen de leur qui verbal ou non verbal, pas oublier si par exemple si moun yo qui dans le spectre de l'autisme, yo pas ka exprimer feeling yo. Kounyan voilà que rentre dans le système d'école là, leur rentre l'école là, yo en sécurité. Donc automatiquement qui ça trigger en tête yo te won officier lan et quand immigration, c'est image ça yo gagné. Donc parents c'est job ou tant kou Diana c'est ou pas obligé à l'expliquer l'école là tout ça passé, te traverser combien rivière, te gen kayoti, mais gen bagay faut ka di yo pour aider yo comprendre ti moun nan bien parce que tout ça yo tout on dit ti moun nan te wè de officier immigration qui bien mine nan kan immigration le rive l'école nan wè sécurité automatiquement ça ta déclencher on peur on sorte de traumatisme qui fait qu'il que ta gon comportement agressif li courir ou bien il pas l'approcher et tout donc parents c'est ou même responsabilité qui pral éviter ça pour expliquer l'école là mais ça fait petite moins mais ça petite moins mais comment il comme toujours dit nous c'est nous même qui compte moun c'est nous qui avec c'est nous qui pral expliquer l'école dans le meilleur moyen possible pour nous aider l'école le système d'école à comprendre si moun ça et encore nous gen moun qui parle créole dans toute l'école ça qui arrive que nous pas satisfait parce que l'école yo tout et comme toujours dit ya me parle créole me traduit pour vous et puis moun connaît duria pois légumes griot new look that's the creole the person know so l'on prend un monde qui parle créole son monde li toujours conseillé un monde qui l'en field là un monde qui l'en spécial autisme 509 là pour l'accompagner nous sous pas senti confortable peut-être un monde qui fait interprète pour vous contactez-nous avant n'a accompagner ou bagage ça parce que tout autant ou expliquer l'école ou même à l'école dans son team tout autant expliquer l'école en petit ou gagnant ou de mieux connaître petit ou c'est pour bien-être petit ou pour stabiliser puis pour la un meilleur environnement que environnement Théo qui était là.
Oh, I know Evelyn just mentioned about the interpreting and how it is important to have the right interpreter, because if we want these parents to communicate with the school, if we don't have the correct person interpreting for them, it's just like we're just washing our hands off, right? I know this was one of the policies that you've been fighting for and making sure that we have the right person interpreting for these parents. They know the educational level of interpreting, not just coming in from, just saying whatever, because sometimes there are people that do know how to interpret the medical terms, but when it comes to, disability words, they're not exposed to that. And then, I want you to talk a little bit about that people are aware, because since we are mentioning it, and we've been saying that a lot of the time, we're telling the parents, utilize the interpreter services, because in our Haitian culture, there's so much pride when it comes to using the interpreter. And we say, hey, it's okay. Because even myself, that's been here since I was 13 years old, there are times I got to go back and put it in my language so I can understand a little bit better.
And you know what I always said, you come here, parent, let me bring pastor to translate for me, and pastor doesn't know what is it an IEP. Yeah. Pastor doesn't know what is it the IDEA Act or ADA Act. Pastor doesn't know about it, and then pastor come to translate. Moi dis nous ça. pas mener ti nièce nou an ki l'école nan kay nan parle anglais pour traduire pour nous gen bagay li pas connaît. Pas mener pasteur, le plus souvent c'est pasteur nous mener. Pas mener pasteur pour traduire pour nous, pasteur pas même connaît. Premier ça pasteur chita djou maladie ça ti moun nan genyen. Donc aller vers un interprète professionnel qui gagne connaissance dans éducation spéciale qui pour traduire pour vous et de comprendre termes qui nouveau pour vous tout.
Yes, no, thank you. That's an issue that's very close to my heart. As a special education attorney, I've been in special education team meetings where the interpreter is not qualified at all. And it's not even their fault. They're trying to help. They're being asked to do something that they don't have the skills to do. And because of that, the parent loses the opportunity to share information about their child, to learn about what their child is doing in school and how their child is doing in school, and to make really important decisions about their child's education. So there are also things like ethics, ethical considerations, confidentiality. We have, I've heard from parents who have the interpreter at the team meeting was not trained to know that everything in that meeting is very confidential. And then after the team meeting, they've run into the person who is serving as the interpreter at the grocery store or somewhere in the community, and they're asking them questions that are very personal about that were discussed at that meeting, and it's very inappropriate. And it's because that interpreter has not been trained, that you don't do that. All of that information that's being shared in the meeting is confidential. So at Mass Advocates for Children, we are advocating for a law that would make a system for training and assigning qualified school interpreters. So in medical fields, there are interpreters, like Cynthia was saying, there are interpreter training programs. In court, in legal settings, there are court interpreters who learn the terminology and what you need to learn, to be a court interpreter. But that doesn't exist for school interpreters. So that's what we're trying to change with this law, is to make sure that school interpreters are trained with the terminology that's used in IEP meetings about ethics and confidentiality. This is actually already in the law. Like, this is in special education law that school districts have to translate documents and provide trained interpreters, but there isn't a system in place to make sure that that happens. And that's really needed so that parents receive the interpretation and translation services, that they need to be able to participate in their children's education.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now I'm confused. I'm like, Evelyn, are you stepping up? Parce que ça que Diana t'a essayé de dire ensemble avec parents, il est vraiment nécessaire que interprète que nous gagnons, c'est interprète qui qualifié. Parce que l'utiliser exemple, ça imaginons qu'on interprète la chita ensemble avec il te gagne dans famille et puis pendant que interprète la dans maquette, il croise ensemble avec famille ça la parler de situation en dans maquette et tout ça comme interprète n'importe monde qui allait qui prend cours interprète ou qui connaît tout bagage confidentiel. D'ailleurs là introduit tête tout by et client premier bagage qu'on dit tout ça qui a dit il a prêté confidentiel. OK, ça veut dire pas sortir dans chambre ça. Et ouais ça fin arrivé ça fait que Evelyn dit qu'on soit pas cap mener passeur ou pas cap mener parce que des fois ou mène moun nan oui la traduit pour est-ce que moun ça la kebe tout bagay yo en dedans ensemble avec pendant
This is not funny, but this is funny in our community. Like, imagine like pastor come entrance it and pastor go to the church and pray about the IEP, what's going on the IEP. Par kap tande yo, IEP se pa IEP seulement takou si avec Diana c'est un bagage confidentiel. Ma le m'chita dans IEP meeting, moi traduit tout ça pour petit tout li confidentiel li rete entre moi interpréteur avant parents. M'pa gen pour m'te al rete c'est tel pour dire on font union prière et puis mettre tout IEP pour prier sur lui. Li pas comme ça. Et m'tap pendant si t'as pas dans chercher m'tap chercher parce que I read Kerry McGraw blogs. Until Monday, I read about it. A parent will sue the teacher for a lot of money because professeur a publié situation handicap petit li. Donc, son bagage confidentiel ou ka lan code pour ça, interpréteur tant que Santia dit, c'est pas, et tant que Diana dit, c'est pas professionnel interpréteur pas suffit, mon faut un certain éthique tout. C'est un secret et même Jean docteur pas gen droit rele n'importe monde pour publier état santé c'est même bagay là si ma le me traduit m'chita loin et puis meeting petit tout m'pa gen aucun kam al partager même en l'autre parent ou bien al faire le public. Donc c'est très important.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that because, like I said, a lot of the time we've seen so many, and some of the school are okay with that, which I don't think they should be okay allowing, someone that don't have a certification of a background. Yes, they may be a family member, but I think it's very important that they have someone that's professional, someone that's certified in the field, so the communication can come across. Because a lot of the time what we notice is the parents, they have something to say, they're unable to say it because sometimes these people that are being presented, they sharing their own personal opinion as well too, and then it can cause a chaos. So thank you, and then we are pushing for this to be a lot.
Absolutely.
I think we should start pushing for that. You have to have a kind of certificate and education to sit down to an IEP meeting to interpret for the parent. You cannot bring your good friend who speak English very well or better than you or pastor. You have to have a certain qualification to sit down to an IEP meeting because it's very important for the parent. And our parent, maybe will just come or they don't see. And I call my daughter's IEP. This is my Bible. This is my constitution. That's your child. This is private. So you cannot call anyone, come and sit down in IEP meeting to decide the well-being of your child. So I think we should start talking about that. People who need to sit to an IEP meeting, they have to be qualified.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's the school district that should also be providing, they need to be providing the interpreter at the team meeting. And unfortunately, even when it is the school district providing the interpreter, a lot of times that person does not have the training and qualifications that they need to be effective. And really, I mean, there's so many situations that we've heard where, we know that the parent school communication is so important to students for them to get what they need to be able to learn in school and be successful in school. And yet you can have so many miscommunications that happened when the interpreter is not effective in their role, that can be avoided, if the interpreter is qualified. So that's something, that's really important for families to keep in mind, that, and they can ask for that. And if it's been a problem in the past, the interpreter has not been qualified in the past, then it's good to document that in writing, to keep track of that. Parents do have the option to file a complaint with the State Department of Education. The process does take a little bit. It takes a long time. It takes 60 days to resolve. So a lot of times we really encourage parents first to start, advocating with the school district to say, this happened. I was not able to participate fully in that team meeting or in that meeting with my child's school. can you please have a qualified interpreter at the next meeting so that I can participate? And if that continues happening, then, sometimes, contact Max Helpline. I have it here in the tagline, and we can talk through about how to prepare and submit a complaint to the State Department of Education if that's the only option.
That's right. So thank you so much. Et nous dit tout le monde k'ap tande yo, c'est pour nous prendre sans nous dans ça que ap di a. Oui, nous gen un petit genre en pile anglais jodi a, mais en même temps quand pas de bonne information parce que j'en dis a c'est droit ou faut qu'on droit ou et même là que la prend 60 jours pour capable faire une complainte quand pile monde qui pas connaît capable faire une complainte pour éducation. Oui, là ou capable faire à l'école là ou capable aller hors de l'école là. Oui, il capable prendre 60 jours. Mais Jean Zolan les dit si vous besoin faire ça, yo même yo disponible. Pour mettre dans le chat là pour nous numéro téléphone yo, c'est pour nous mettre là tout ça yo. Même Jean IPAC bib nous, faut nous gon l'autre petit bib encore pour nous mettre toutes ces informations. Chaque fois on moun venir parler, il gon petit ressources là-dedans. Et mettez-les là pour les qu'on a un problème. Même le pas un problème dans jeudi, demain si je veux capable confronter. I was just saying like make sure you know we have the IEP as our Bible. We have another Bible for resources. So whenever we have somebody that's able to help, even though we don't need the help at the constant moment, but we don't know later on. We write it down in our notebook and then later we can always come back to it so we can use the help. So I know the time is advancing and I know you're not gonna be only here for this one time, but I have two questions. I want to make sure that
I have a question too.
we get to it, but I'm gonna do my two questions, right? So my first question, I wanted if you can summarize, like I'm someone here, I've been here, I do speak English very well. However, I don't know how my rights when it comes to education. I wanted if you can break it down a little bit for someone that is been here for a long time and in special education, what should they know, what they should be aware of their rights. I know it can be a long thing, but if you can summarize it'll be great. And then the other thing is, hey, I'm just coming here as an immigrant, I'm coming here as a migrant. What should I be aware of? What are the things that I should be making sure that I know to make sure my child has a successful year or their time during their education in the system?
Okay, excellent questions, and I could speak for hours on both of those questions. But some key things I think in terms of what advocacy and education and how to make sure some tools, let's say in the law, so that our children get what they need in school. One of those we've already talked about is the right to language access, interpretation and translation services, and which enables the parent involvement. That is absolutely fundamental for students getting what they need in school. So that's kind of the first one. Another key right in education is if you see that anything that your child is not learning, something is not going right with your child in school. Maybe your child already has an IEP, maybe they don't yet, but your child it can be anything, academically, socially and emotionally, any way in which your child is struggling in school, you have the right to ask the school district to evaluate your child in an area where there may be a suspected disability that is a barrier for your child to learning in school. So we often see cases with especially very young children, like behavioral issues in the classroom, where they're unable to sit in the group, or maybe they're not learning the routine inside the classroom. Maybe they're not able to communicate, like to verbalize what they need or what they want in the classroom, is one example. And a first step in making sure that our children get what they need in school and can participate in school is to request that the school do an evaluation of your child. So that's one thing. I don't know if you want to say that in Haitian Creole, or should I continue? Or
go ahead, Evelyn. Evelyn, you can go. I'm typing it in the chat so that you get it.
Diana dit nous konsa que pour nous faire évaluer parents ti moun nan ou gon évaluation petit tout. Évaluation li inclut peut-être comportement, c'est ça ou le behavioral analysis, tester niveau éducation, niveau thérapie, c'est ça nous comptons des psychological report, tout rapport, toute évaluation, ça nous checker. Nous gen droit demander l'école là. Et m'vle mettre en parenthèse, tout record yo ba nous, tout toujours attendre me dire les paroles s'en vont les écrits sur tout et rapport nous gen à l'écrit lettre correspondance concernant évaluation que l'école l'en fait ou bien nous demander l'école l'en fait fon kembe yo. Et nous gen droit tout pas d'accord avec un assessment l'école l'en fait. Nous gen droit ça. Si nous pas d'accord avec un assessment l'école l'en fait, nous gen droit demander un assessment fait un deuxième assessment fait avec un l'autre partie qui pas l'école là. Donc bon quitter Diana fini. Tout c'est là me voulais poser Diana question ça. Diana, I resume a little bit of what you say. Now that was my question, to let the parent know if they not agree with the school assessment. Some parents don't know that they have the right to request a third party for a second assessment. Donc parents mais ça demande Diana là.
Thank you so much, Evelyn.
Tout ça nous fait là, l'école n'a pas un assessment. Nous gen droit pas d'accord à assessment l'école là et nous gen droit now I'm speaking English, now I forgot. Nous gen droit demander un third party, on l'autre partie en dehors pour faire un l'autre assessment. Now Diana, I want you to just confirm with me.
And you can ask for the school district to pay for it.
Exactly. Now parents,
it's a second opinion.
Exactly. Let me tell you, parents, l'école nan gen doit ban un assessment, nous pas d'accord assessment nan, nous relé on third party, on l'autre moun dehors pour ban un deuxième opinion. Et comme ça moun ap chercher nous discret l'école a payé li. Donc
Yeah, and at MAC we have letters, example letters that you can use to request a school evaluation and to request funding for an independent evaluation, which is like the second opinion evaluation if you disagree with the school district. So please contact our helpline if you're interested in accessing. They're on our website, but also feel free to contact our helpline to get those template letters and for us to explain in more detail about the steps for accessing those tools that the law provides.
Diana dit nous comme ça que mag gen lettre ça tout préparé. Donc nous anytime nous gen doit contacter aussi nous besoin forme lettre ça yo pour nous connaître pour demander une deuxième opinion en third party, forme tout pour demander que pour discret rembourser nous comme n'a dépensé pour deuxième opinion. So my question is answered. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was your question. Okay. So, yes.
She snuck it in there.
Yes. No, and that was actually, we're like on the same wavelength because that's exactly where I was
and
going.
Most of the time it's because I've been there. My daughter is 25 now. I've been there. I remember that. So I always tell parents, but parents should know they can do that. You can offer you school. Okay, they come with a list. Nouveau parents yo di nou mais l'école ti moun nou gen droit parent mais l'école yo. Parent, we forget that, especially when we just come here, we forget, okay, there's a list of 3 schools. You have the right or not liking any of the school.
Yeah.
And it happened to me in New York. My daughter was like, what, 5? And then I didn't like the school, the area. And then they send teachers and therapists home until I find another school. The new parents especially, they don't know all that. They don't know if I'm not agree with the assessment, I can request a third party to do a second opinion. So this is very important for them to know. Thank you, Diana.
Yeah, of course. And I know we're running out of time, but I just in terms of newcomer families arriving to Massachusetts, arriving to the United States, and enrolling in school, it's really important. If you have had concerns about your child's learning before they came to the United States, don't assume that they're going to know that right away when you go to enroll your child in school. It could take them months. I have heard of situations because of the language barrier, because of educators being overwhelmed, where even students who are non-speaking because of a disability, it's taken months for the school to know that that student has needs additional support and is entitled to additional support in order to learn. So if you know this about your child, maybe they've been in formal school before and they've had struggles in their language to learn in school. When you go to this, to fill out the enrollment paperwork with the school, provide any information you have. If you have it in writing from doctors or evaluators in your home country, that's great. But even if it's you talking to them about what some of your concerns have been and what your child has experienced in their home country, that is so important for the school district to know about so that your child can get what they need as soon as possible.
Diane dit très important nous parler ça on diagnose. Nous ça arrive en pile que nous gain de parents, c'est ça en Haïti qui relè nous dans téléphone parce que au t'entendé nous dans radio t'a dit mais qui ça autisme, yo dit oh, petite moi c'est autisme ni gain. Donc c'est yo fait diagnostic yo pas gon diagnostic officiel. Et nous en pile aider parents la traduction parents qui sous frontière Texas ou mes parents qui sont en Haïti, yo pas gen un diagnostic officiel, mais l'entendez nous la radio yo connaît ti moun nan gen on besoin spécial. Donc l'on vinn ici, faut que nous fait l'école dans quel que soit changement, nous pas cabrete pour nous continuer que nous pas vle accepter ti moun nan gon problème, nous jouer politique de l'Autriche, nous fourrer tête nous en bata blanc en ambassade blanc et puis dans l'inscrit ti moun nan l'école nan normalement. Ça fait en pile. Nous connaît ti moun nan, ça veut dire nous connaît ti moun nan gon problème, pas vrai? Le fait que nous pas gon diagnostic officiel, n'al inscrit ti moun nan dans l'école normalement. Non, quel que soit ti changement, c'est meilleure occasion ou l'autre côté, ou l'autre setting, quel que soit ti changement ou bien ou ta wè kay ti moun nan, c'est ou qui peut expliquer l'école là. Petit moins pas parler, petit moins remérer pour compte li, petit moins agressif pour l'école là ka connaît exactement là qui setting pour mettre ti moun nan. C'est plus que temps pour ou même qui connaît gon bagay qui pas marcher pour suspendre jeu politique de l'Autriche et puis tout nous même communauté m'a parler avec nous ou pas ka passer sous système l'école là. Ou gon ti moun qui gen besoin spécial ou jouer politique de l'Autriche ou l'inscrit ou fait comme sou pas connaît, y a fin pas connaît quand même parce que la prêté derrière c'est ti moun nan wap blessé. Donc pi bonheur toujours pi bon. The earlier the better. You let the school know my child doesn't speak. My child got behavior issue. My child is this, so they will help you. But faut que ou honnête à tête ou pas ka di bon pas di on m'a passé sous l'école là. Ou ap rivon côté, c'est ti moun nan wap blessé. Si.
I don't know if you wanted to add anything else besides what you say, but I think those are the key things that parents should be aware of because like you said, with the language, access to language is very important. They need to know that you can get an interpreter. It doesn't matter what language you speak. There's interpreters for every single language. I've never been to anywhere where they say, no, we don't speak your language. Yeah. And I tell parents all the time, just say Haitian Creole, because I know there's two Creoles that get confused. Is the Portuguese Creole as well too. Sometimes they ended up getting the Portuguese interpreter. I said, just say Haitian Creole. Once you say that, they already know that's all you needed is an interpreter that you needed. And then, as you're mentioning about the evaluation, it's very important that people know you don't automatically diagnose the child yourself. You need a professional to do
self-diagnose, yeah. And we do that in our community, especially home. I have a lot of people reach out to me who say, oh, I heard you on the radio about autism. That's why my child have. Here, you got to get that official diagnosis.
Yep, vraiment important pour nous capable faire ça. So Diana, I don't want to take a lot of your time. And like I said, this is not going to be the last one. You're going to keep coming back because there is so much more we have to discuss. Because one thing, Evelyn, we have to make sure the communities that we have coming, that they have all the tools necessary, right? We don't want them to say, well, I didn't know. Okay, you wouldn't know unless you don't watch the lives that we have. And we ask everybody, make sure that you share this live. We had it in English today and Haitian Creole. So both our, folks that are following us are able to understand. So Diana, what is the last word you would like to leave us with?
Oh, no. I don't like to say goodbye.
Well, you will come back. Yeah,
I will come back.
It's a see you later. It's a see you another.
See you later. No, yes. And I think just in terms of a last thought, it's really that you as parents, what you know about your child is critically important and necessary information for the school so they know how they can best support your child in school. So just sometimes parents, I feel like, oh, they're the experts. Oh, they know about education. They know about disabilities and they're specialists and really they have their role in terms of meeting the needs of your child, but nobody knows your child the way that you know your child. And you have that information that it's so important to share with your child's educators.
Thank you, Diana. Diana dit nous que moun yo l'école lan, yo gen diplôme yo. Yo expert, yo gen diplôme yo, but expert petit ou c'est ou même parent. So c'est ou qui pour aller, j'aime toujours dire nous marcher l'école lan, expliquer au petit ou qui est lié comment pour ka mieux servir petit ou. Donc c'est où qui compte dossier ça petit ou parce que tout le monde qui pral chita là et puis avoir qui gagne tout diplôme qui gagne yo pas compte dossier c'est ou konnen c'est pour expliquer yo pour ka mieux servir petit ou pour bien être petit ou.
Yes. And thank you again so much, Diana. Just like Raquel has said, Diana is the best. She's always helping others.
Hi, Catherine. I love it.
Yes, and you always help people. And I remember, when I was in at the expo, I pull you aside and you had your son, hanging to you. And then you're like, yeah, I'm going to sit down and listen of your concern. And you said, hey, Cynthia, no matter what, I'm going to make sure that I come in. And we appreciate that. We appreciate as well, too, Mass Advocate. We have been doing a lot of work with them in the past as far as like translating. And then also, being able to talk with you guys about our communities. Mass Advocate, Evelyn, has always opened up the doors to learn from others, learn from other communities, how they can serve these communities better. And, we appreciate the work you're doing. And we know Anna is with you, and then she's such a wonderful lawyer herself, doing wonderful work. And we know for all the folks, tout moun ki na Massachusetts yo, nou mette numéro a pou nou na kote chat box lan ye lan, la dan li ekri li, jam dou la, ou ka pa bezwen numéro sa jodi ya, on fwa ka on jenon le parent ki bezwen li, ou bien ou même tout ou ka di m'songe tel bagay oui ou te di m'konsa m'kapable get template ça ou te capable gon problème dans l'école là fait tout parler de comment que ou capable gon lettre qui déjà en place pour même pour demander certain things l'école là supposé ba ou. So li important nous gen numéro ça et ça fait que nous fait émission ça encore Yveline nous toujours dire merci avec Autism 509 qui c'est sister m'ka dit avec Black Autism Coalition nous mettez tête nous ensemble pour capable faire émission ça merci pourtant qu'on toujours bail et dédié ensemble avec émission ça Evelyn again and Diana, I want to thank you. And Evelyn, I know you have something to say. And before I go, tout le monde pas oublier dimanche nous get picnic là. We have a family picnic, Diana, in Lancaster on Sunday, where all the family is gonna get together, have the kids, because we know it's been a very how would I say emotional summer for us. A lot of the parents had kept their kids inside a lot because of their safety. We just wanted to create an environment where they can come, we can have some food, do some swimming, and have some fun with the guys. So we want to thank our sponsors. We have Raquel's gonna be over there. I'm putting together with a space that's gonna be over there with us too, with the Somalians family. So we're gonna have Haitians and Somalians getting together. We have different, other people that are coming in. The Massachusetts Developmental is gonna come there as well too. We want to thank them for the sponsorship, and then we have a sorority, Fizetas, is gonna be as well. We have Honey Badgers that's gonna come. All these volunteers, we want to thank them in advance for willing to put this picnic as a success. Nous dit merci ensemble avec you. We have Junior Brisket as well too. That's gonna be coming from Boston, Massachusetts Association of Haitian Parents. So everybody is just putting their head together to make this picnic a success. So nous invitons tout le monde. Contactez-moi si nous t'avez venir. Même là, à Boston, on dit, oh, Lancaster loin, nous avons un bus qui est disponible pour parents, yo, ok? So, menez ti moun yo, menez ti bout shot yo, mettez ti bathing suit yo pour yo capable venir et enjoy time ensemble.
Well, thank you again. Another great Thursday. Diana, thank you. I know you will be back. We have so many things. And I can tell you, as a special need parent, when you need this thing, you're right. There's a lot of things to talk about with the education attorney, guardianship, will, all this. Very important that parents don't know. We have a lot of parents, their children are 17, they're going to turn 18. They don't know yet. Thank you. Thank you for the work you are doing for our community. And thank you, Cynthia, for having me. And I think this is to be continued. Diana, I'll see you soon. Thank you again. Have a great Thursday.
All right. Thank you. All right.